few movie franchises have been as close and dear to my heart than Evil Dead. I honestly love these movies so much. Ever since I saw the 2013 one, exactly when it came out, I've never been the same. These are some of the most entertaining, bloody, and just absolutely insane movies I've ever seen. And I've still yet to watch the TV show Ash vs. Evil Dead, but I gotta say, this has become truly one of my favorite franchises. So when they announced the newest movie that was gonna come out, Evil Dead Rise, it quickly became one of my most anticipated films of the year. And I can't wait to review this today because honestly, I saw it last night and it was absolutely insane in every way. I gotta say, this is not a movie for the faint of heart. It pushes boundaries in every single way. So if you like horror, but are like squirmish, you don't like blood, I gotta say, you gotta sit this one out and come back when you're brave enough because it is absolutely worth the watch. And I have to say, it's a testament of how good horror movies have become because over the last decade, I feel like we kind of entered a dark age of horror movies. They're not very good ones except for like some art house things like The Witch, like Hereditary, those kind of things. But like mainstream horror movies, I feel like this one is setting a good precedent for the future. So without further ado, let's talk about the darn movie itself because it's just so good and there's so many things to talk about it, especially as an Evil Dead fan and as a mainstream fan because I just loved it so much. So anyways, let's go on with the plot. So the plot of Evil Dead Rise kind of follows the same formula as previous Evil Dead movies. Like people find one of the Necronomicons, which are these cursed books. When you read some of the words that are in it, it unleashes a curse that starts infecting people and turning them into like these deadite zombie things that just cause a lot of mayhem. So that is the main plot, and it takes place in a very different location from other movies. For example, in the original Evil Dead ones and in Evil Dead 2013, it was in a cabin in the woods, and this one takes place in the middle of a city. So it's basically in Los Angeles in a high-rise building, and it becomes really insane because there's a lot of moments that like play with the environment really well with this new setting for an Evil Dead movie, and it just works so well. I didn't expect it to work so well, and when I came into this movie, I did not see any of the trailers. I didn't see like the previews. I just went in completely blind and I was blown away. I loved every second because it has a very similar tone to the 2013 one, but like I said before, it takes place in a completely different setting because the original Sam Raimi movies were like really good, but they were kind of like a more goofy comedic horror feeling to them.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick.
They're really amazing. I mean, Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time. But these movies just kind of like take that same concept and like impulse it in a very different direction. So actually, I gotta say, like the tone of Evil Dead Rise is kind of in the middle between Evil Dead 2013 and the Sam Raimi movies. It has some kind of like goofy moments. It also has a lot of Easter eggs. So something I have to mention about Evil Dead Rise is that it has a lot of Easter eggs that hardcore Evil Dead fans will notice. For example, the Henrietta's pizza that it like shows in one scene. Like it's a reference to the Henrietta character in Evil Dead 2, which was hilarious. And there are a couple other ones. For example, the Necronomicons, they mentioned there are three, which kind of like echoes the Necronomicons from Army of Darkness, which shows three ones with Ash encounters.
3 books. Hold it. Nobody said anything about 3 books. Like what am I supposed to do? Take 1 book or all books or what?
And like if you connect the dots, it might imply that this movie takes place in the same universe as the 2013 one and also the Ash one. It just explain it by like making them 3 different books. So what happens in this movie is that we explore this family, which comprises of Ellie, her sister Beth, and Ellie's children, which are Danny, Bridget, and Cassie. So, and basically when they go out, the kids encounter one of the Necronomicons after an earthquake. So they find this vault with a lot of creepy stuff in it, and Danny steals some vinyl records and the book, and he takes them back to the apartment. And obviously, as you know, people always do in these Evil Dead movies, he reads some of the words from well, actually he doesn't read them. He plays one of the vinyl records, and like the recording reads the cursed words. And despite being warned not to, this is something in these movies that always happens. Like a character is warned that you should not read these words, and that's exactly what happens. And it just unleashes, you know, this terrible curse that infects the mother Ellie. And I gotta say, like, as soon as she becomes infected, she becomes one of the most iconic horror characters in, like, the last couple of years. Like, I gotta give my respects to Alyssa Sutherland, because her portrayal as Cursed Ellie, with the way she moves and speaks and just, like, delivers this just terrifying and stressful performance, is just so good in so many fronts. And I just love her performance so much. Because there's a couple characters that just serve as cannon fodder, but like the way she just obliterates them is just so scary, and also reminiscent of the old movies, which kind of like references those, like that old style that Sam Raimi is known for. but it's just like the horror is unprecedented. Also, I have to warn that from this point on, I'm gonna talk about some heavy spoilers for the movie, so if you haven't seen it, just skip ahead or watch another one of my awesome videos, because I'm gonna go into heavy spoilers, so please be warned. So basically in the movie, the Force, like, basically infects Ellie, she dies, and then she revives, and as everybody's trying to figure out what is going on, so Beth starts investigating, she plays some of the vinyl records for more clues, and it's like, as while that is happening, everything just turns into chaos. Bridget becomes infected, she becomes a deadite, and also I gotta say, like, Bridget's performance and the way her character just basically goes ballistic on the other two kids and Beth is just also phenomenal. I think that portrayal of that character was really great. I love the deadites. I love how there's like a more supernatural feeling in this one compared to like Evil Dead 2013, because, like, let me explain myself. And that one, it was more like, like, grounded brutality. I don't know if I explained myself correctly, but in this one, like, the supernatural feeling of like something more unexplainable is throughout the whole movie, and that's something I really appreciated. So as the movie progresses, the curse basically expands to the rest of the characters, that everybody basically dies, like Danny also dies, and Beth realizes, you know what, we have to get out of here. So she saves Cassie, which is the young girl character. She decides, like, you know what, we have to get out of here. There's no way we can stop this curse, which is something new in the Evil Dead movies. Usually they have a solution and for the curses. For example, in Evil Dead 2, it was basically trying to like recite the words that would stop the curse. In Evil Dead 2013, they managed to save Mia, which was the only survivor. Also, spoilers for Evil Dead 2013. And in this one, everything feels much more hopeless, if I explain myself correctly. So basically, Beth's solution is to just leave. Like, no, there's really no way to solve the curse, which is something really new for an Evil Dead movie. And she exits with Cassie, and there is a really interesting scene before like they exit through the elevator. Like, the lighting in that one scene at the end where all the deadites just basically like revive again, and they start singing like Dead by Dawn, Dead by Dawn, which is a really nice reference to Evil Dead 2. It was just really phenomenal. I love the lighting of that scene. I love the way it just basically expounds on all the horror of the movie. And then after that, there was like one of the most intense and stressful scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie too. So basically, we encounter one of the most terrifying villains in an Evil Dead movie. So basically, Ellie fuses with Bridget and Danny, and they become like this just like spider creature that reminds me kind of like of Laura from the Evil Within series. So that was like really nice. I don't know if it's an intentional Easter egg, but it's just really awesome and scary and terrifying. So that entire scene with the elevator, which also has a really amazing reference to The Shining, and the subsequent fight with Ellie, and it's just amazing. And also, it basically like cements Beth as one of the, like, a new Evil Dead hero, that which is so badass in like that final scene. And I just love it. I feel like it has also like a lot of like feeling from games, for example, like Silent Hill, Resident Evil. Kind of like that final scene is just so amazing, like how these ordinary characters are thrown into this situation where they have to fight for their lives and become unintentionally heroes. And that is something I love. Like, there's this like hopeful feeling towards the end, but it's also really stressful. Like, honestly, it's just like movies like this one, like horror movies that actually make you stressful and make your chest pound for how horrifying it is. Like, for example, Hereditary had a lot of that. Some other movies just I just really appreciate it, and I feel like horror movies like this one are gonna be in high demand in the next couple of years. I really hope we see movies like this one as setting an example. So yeah, honestly, I think the ending was phenomenal. I think everything was really well done. The only thing I kind of like I liked, but also felt it was out of place. I could like the movie could have done well without that. Was like the intro and the outro, where basically the like another character takes the curse to a cabin, and that sets like the intro, and they explain what happens in the end. That was kind of unnecessary, but also it like doesn't really take from the overall experience of the movie, which is like everything taking place in the building. So honestly, I enjoy this movie so much. It is one of the best horror movies. I think I might call it the best horror movie I've ever seen. Honestly, I'm really I can say that with confidence. Like, my other favorite movie was Evil Dead 2013, and followed by Evil Dead 2. But this one, I feel like it's much better than those two movies. Honestly, I feel like those three are some of the best horror movies ever produced. They're just so fun. Like, they're just a perfect mix between horror and also action and adventure kind of elements thrown in. So it's just like really exciting to watch. And yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts. I love this movie so much. I think it's a nearly perfect film in every sense of the word. And I'm going to give it a 98 out of 100. I honestly love the movie that much. I think it's one of my favorite movies, easily like top 15, if not top 10. But yeah, we'll have to see how my opinion changes. But overall, I was really satisfied, and I can't wait to see it again. I might actually go see it at the theater once more before it comes out in Blu-ray. But yeah, honestly, I love it. Evil Dead Rise, such an amazing movie. Honestly, my respects to everybody, the cast, the crew, the director, Lee Cronin, everybody. I just loved it so much. And yeah, I can't praise this movie enough. Please go watch it if you love horror. So anyways, those are pretty much all my thoughts, and I'll see you next time. So have a groovy day, and I'll see you around.